A warm welcome to all our viewers this afternoon, and welcome to Wild Earth Live at the Watering Hole, where this afternoon we're starting off with Eldonyo in Kenya. And we're starting off with what looks like a beautiful, beautiful day here. I'm Yapi Potgieter, and I'll be your host this afternoon. And of course, like usual, very excited for a nice relaxing afternoon, hopefully filled with lots of good animals. So I would like to remind our viewers that you can join us. You can join the conversation on X using hashtag WildEarth, or you can scan the QR code there at the bottom right of the screen. And you can also join us either from the website, and you can send your questions through to wildearth.tv/questions. And of course, you can join us on YouTube as well, and send us through whatever you would like to talk about. If you just want to say hi, there's always a lot of things that people might want to know about. You can also send your questions and your comments through via WhatsApp, and you can see there's the number there, 078 630 2336, or the country and area code +27 instead of the 0 at the start if you are outside of South Africa. So we're starting off with a comment from Victoria Pont. You're saying hi to everybody. It's 9:30 on Friday in Australia, and it's pretty hot there today. And tomorrow it's 32 degrees Celsius. That is indeed extremely, extremely hot, Victoria. Where I am in the Lowveld, 32 degrees Celsius is not an uncommon number for the thermometer to hit. However, we've been experiencing quite a bit of wind this side. And then we've got another comment from Harriet Hodgins saying hello to Yapi and Final Control, as well as all the Wild Earth chatters from a hot Cape Town. Happy Fur Day. Happy Fur Day to you too, Harriet. And very happy to hear that it's nice and hot in Cape Town. Mercedes Bean, you're also saying greetings to the Wild Earth crew and chatters, and happy Friday. And the same from Joan Mello. Now let's have a look. You can see a very relaxed elephant bull, a little bit camera shy, standing in the water, just the tip of the trunk up, checking his surroundings out. You can see some things drawn his attention as that trunk tip is up like that. It's just taking a whiff of the air, picking up whatever chemical signals of nearby animals. In that way, for an elephant, that sense of smell is a massive, massive part in its awareness and taking in its surroundings. And that's why often they can just stand like that, not looking like they're doing too much, although they're very, very carefully taking note of what's happening around them. And there we have an eland in the distance. Oh, there we go. I think there is another elephant coming in the back. Oh no, it's a giraffe. My apologies. And there we go. A casual stroll off. He's had enough to drink. And let's see. Now there's a time for this eland to come in. You can see also quite a careful approach by the eland. And I'm wondering if some of those giraffe will come over. You can see the giraffe is just standing in the shade under that umbrella thorn. But it's very nice to see eland. I haven't seen eland at the watering hole for a while. A couple of days ago I did, for the first time in quite a while. So then we got Catherine. Catherine saying hi to Nadine and Yapi. Hi to you too, Catherine. And Mr. Elemental, you are saying hello Victoria everyone, and you're saying it's 6:30 p.m. in Windy Harbour, Western Australia, and cold and rainy, and 21 degrees Celsius tomorrow. Alright, so Mr. Elemental, you are replying to Victoria Pont's message from earlier. Excuse me. Deb Davis also saying hi to everybody here at Wild Earth from across the pond in Pennsylvania, US. We are well, thank you, Deb. Hope that you are. Have a look. Both these animals, well, the giraffe looks like it's coming in hot, but I think the eland is viewing this watering hole with a bit of an air of suspicion. Not sure why entirely. Spasiankov, you're saying, sorry I'm so late and great to see the elephant. I think we saw it with Kerry yesterday, but I haven't seen eland here for a long time. Spas, very happy to hear that you are enjoying the eland, and indeed myself as well. It's a very, very beautiful antelope. And Ellie is saying, hello you beautiful Tower of Africa. Got a bit of a cough going on my side, but not too much stress. I took a sip of water, just like this giraffe. Only for me it's a lot easier. You can see very, very awkward position this giraffe finds himself in. And once again the birds are down on the face, obviously using this opportunity. So it's funny when you do see a giraffe like this drinking, then you can't help but wonder, one of the supported theories for the length of a giraffe's leg or neck is actually to be able to enable it to still drink water from low surface water like puddles and little dams. When its legs started extending through evolution, so did its neck to kind of fit in and aid its physiology. An enabling factor. It certainly provides me a lot of entertainment watching giraffe coming down to drink. And here comes the eland. I'm very surprised at how nervous that eland is. It took such a long time. You can see it looks ready to jolt off at any moment. Doesn't look like it has to go through the same level of effort as the giraffe, but certainly the presence of the giraffe in this case definitely also gave this eland a little bit more confidence, as giraffes are kind of regarded as the watchdogs of the savannah. Those very, very tall necks, excellent eyesight, the animals that can see very, very far. So like Ellie mentioned earlier, definitely the towers of Africa. And that's nice to see once the elephants move off, how these creatures start to move into the water. There's a few steps. I wonder how many giraffes in that position can drink around this small watering hole. I see in the background there, behind where the eland was standing, there's two young male giraffes that looked like they were necking each other for a little bit. Maybe I'm mistaken. Now, Jabulani Justice from Leidenburg, Mpumalanga, you saying you're watching a beautiful long giraffe drinking water and you hope to visit Oldonyo one day. I would love to go visit Oldonyo myself, Jabulani Justice. I would very much like to do it one day as well. I would love to see that part of Africa. It's such an iconic African safari destination, and of course with these iconic Maasai giraffe, a creature that I have been fortunate to see myself. They are fascinating. So you can also send us some comments through. You can email info@wildearth.travel, or you can visit wildearth.travel or scan the QR code there, and that way you can get some information on the travel opportunities provided through Wild Earth. You can get the chance to head over to some of these very, very iconic and remote destinations. Roar is saying good day, and you're asking if elephants' tusks drop as they get heavier, and do you think that it's sore for the elephant's mouth? That is a good question, Raw. Not sure exactly what you mean by the tusks dropping, but if you are asking if they get too heavy, if they drop them off, not necessarily. I know of a few elephants in the past that's been regarded as tuskers where the weight of the tusks certainly provided them with some burden, but they adapted through regular rest. Although, especially one particular elephant I can think of struggled in its later years when it was older, and it was actually, after it died, it was actually found like propped upright by its two very heavy straight tusks. Very, very interesting elephant. and people can go and read up about them. There were 7, actually a little more, but 7 elephants known as the Magnificent Seven that roamed throughout the Kruger Park region. In the 1900s, very, very old park, the Kruger Park, and of course they have some very well documented animal stories in some cases, and the Magnificent Seven elephants being one of them. Well, while these giraffes are standing around here deciding whether to drink or not, let's go check in with a gemsbok at Safari Hoek. Oof, this is beautiful. And that's not just the beautiful gemsbok that I'm talking about. I'm also talking about the unbelievable green tinge that Safari Hoek's got. Last time I had a look at Safari Hoek, it was very much the same color as the coat of that gemsbok, more or less. In the background you can see what looks to me like some stunted mupani shrubs. Not sure exactly what that gemsbok is licking or chewing on, but very likely trying to acquire some minerals or nutritional needs that it's supplementing from the soils there. And that is something that happens sometimes. You'll find that in certain areas especially, animals do tend to find some minerals around the water sources, and they often go about licking at. Whatever it is, it certainly seems to keep this gemsbok preoccupied. What a beautiful antelope. Look at those very, very long straight horns. Obviously something very unique about this antelope. And surprising how those white and black markings with the almost, what's that, beige tawny coat, the rest of it, the body, makes it blend perfectly into its background. Well, not so much against this green background. But let's see. So, Mindy Tillipal, you're saying that this week's been full of giraffe sightings at, I'm assuming you were talking about Oldonyo. I'm sure it was. I'm sure with the heat. Oof, look at that. Every time this gemsbok brings its head up, it's also cleaning whatever debris or parts it picked up on the rest of its nose. It's always interesting to watch these animals when they lick themselves. They've got very, very long prehensile tongues, and they often lick within the nostrils, but certainly that also aids in cleaning those areas. But they have a very, very sensitive upper lip. You've got a lot of little nerve endings extending into hair-like structures. And they're very, very in tune with what's happening on the ground near them when they're licking or eating. And wow, he's noticed that there's water. So let's see if he comes down for a drink. I think after licking dirt for that long, he must be thirsty. And I think it is not. And then we got a comment from Bill saying that Oldonyo was busy last night. And there were lots of lion cubs and action with jackals and finding scraps. And Bill saying that he guesses that there was a lion killed nearby. Very, very interesting. Very interesting indeed. It's amazing how when we were at Oldonyo earlier we couldn't even see any signs of it. And maybe that was why that eland and the giraffe was a little bit nervous. Unlike this gemsbok, or oryx as it's known in English. Gemsbok is its local Afrikaans name. Also an antelope with excellent eyesight and can handle the glare of the sun, some of the sand dunes that it moves over quite well. It looks like a male, this one. And quite relaxed. I'm wondering, probably not with a group or traveling with any others currently. Now Jen, hello to you too there in Australia, where you're watching from. You said that you saw what you were sure was 2 secretary birds at Oldonyo about half an hour ago, and that you've never seen them before, and that is pretty incredible. It is an amazing bird to, especially if you're lucky enough to tick it off for the first time on your list. That is very cool bird to tick off. Ooh, look at this. How beautiful is this? I can see now that there is quite a bit of rain that fell in this area, and it's come alive beautifully. But from the beautiful green felt around Safari Hook, let's go to see an aquatic animal at Shalati Sunrise. Amazing. A spectacular view. Just like we had of that very beautiful gemsbok. From that to a scaly crocodile. Both of them creatures we don't see too often. Or at least not the views that we've had this afternoon. And this crocodile, currently, you can see the eyes are opening every now and again, so obviously very aware of her surroundings, or his surroundings. Would be difficult to say. It looks like a very large crocodile. You can see it looks like it's also missing a few dorsal scales on the tail. Either that or it's just blending in very well. But of course that tail that thins out towards its edge is what gives it its edge in the water when it's moving, and crocodiles can swim very fast, and that's kind of like a propeller like structure. But what a unique animal. If we get it out in the open like this on a rare occasion, it's very interesting to carefully have a look at it. You can see it's breathing there. Oof, there we go. Nice view. It knows we're talking about it. It must be. Those big powerful legs, even though they look short and stumpy, they can lift that incredible weight off the ground. And then of course the hind feet having webs between the toes, and the claws aiding with swimming. And then of course once we get closer, you can see all the different little bony scales. So pieces of bone in all of those scales, and they're covered by skin. But just look at the business end of this incredible animal. That is a skull made almost of solid bone, and then a very, very powerful neck and jaw muscles attached to it, the back, almost all of them, enabling it to close that mouth with a tremendous force. So Calvin from Hordle, UK, you saying hi to the Wild Earth team, and you say that Hordle in the UK is a sunny and overcast with 8 degrees Celsius. You're saying you love the images from Kenya, and that you said you had a great time at Kisheshe Bush Camp in 2009. Great TV. Very happy to hear that, Calvin. Very happy. Eddie is saying it must taste yummy. I'm assuming you were talking about the gemsbok earlier, licking the soil. And then Catherine was asking if they happen to have anything like a salt-based square block for animals. That's a good question, Catherine. Sometimes indeed they do put out feeding blocks, as they are known, or mineral blocks, and it's to aid in certain areas, especially areas that's intensively managed, whatever the reason might be. You do find that, or if there's not a lot of surface water in certain areas in times of droughts, certain blocks of minerals might be put out in the field, and that will aid the animals and give them a chance to lick, salt licks as they are known. And that's to add minerals to their diet that they might not necessarily pick up through the plant material that they eat, and that is due to the fact that the soils might be lacking in certain parts. And of course animals still need their nutrition in areas that they aren't able to move outside of the confines of a protected area. Of course then they will have to be supplemented. And then Joan Miller, you're saying you love the croc. It is a good size indeed. There we go. There we can have a clear view of the tail. Look at that tail. That tail tells a story. Definitely some dorsal scales missing there. And you can see the shape of it. Incredibly well designed to propel this animal forward. Almost more than half the animal's body. But this is a beautiful view of a very large crocodile. And then from Picasso, saying, hi Yapi, and Milan, 6 years old, wants to know how old an owl can be. Milan, that's a good question. I am not too sure exactly of owls' ages, but I do know some of the larger owls can live quite a number of years, and often extending more than 10, probably reaching the ages of around 20 for the bigger owls, which is incredibly old for a bird. And then Victoria Pont is saying that, I was asking which is bigger, the Australian or the African crocodile. That's a good question, Victoria. And there's a lot of debate around that. A lot of people would say that the Australian saltwater crocodile is regarded the largest reptile. Oh, let's see. This croc might move into the water. Here we go. What an odd movement. Let's see. So normally, if a croc's been laying in the sun for a long time, like it looks this one might have been, because it's kind of dried out properly, then to release some heat and help regulate it, it often opens its mouth, and often that would coincide with the part of its basking routine where it's coming to an end. So sometimes what happens is the mouth goes open quite a lot. It might mean that the croc might be getting to the point where it will have to drop back into the water to regulate. If it's a warm day, of course. Well, it looks like this croc is stopped just short of the water. And you can see that murky water providing perfect space for that creature right underneath those reed pads. Well, while this crocodile is enjoying the sun here, we're going to head over to Tau, where I hear we've got an elephant with an interesting situation. Just look at that. What a beautiful view, and indeed an interesting situation. Have a look there. On the elephant's front leg, it looks like a large bulge on the upper leg. Not sure what would have happened there. Doesn't seem to be affecting the animal in its stride. If we look carefully, it looks like a big bull elephant. But it certainly looks quite interesting, quite funny. Now, it is very, very... It's not something that's completely uncommon to see a big elephant like this, with bulges like that. And can't help but wonder what's happened there, and I can only guess at best, but an elephant, an animal with such a thick skin, often what happens if infections below the skin or in the skin happens, then it doesn't necessarily actually, it gets infected, and you might find that there's a lot of pus and other bacteria and stuff inside it, but it doesn't actually reach a point where it ruptures the skin due to the fact that it's so thick and so strong, and it often forms these bulges, sometimes in areas where elephants get harassed or hunted by people. Sometimes what you'll find is those signs can indicate attempts that didn't work. Well, let's have a look. Let's see what this elephant does. He's just cooling himself down now and having a drink. But so Catherine, so there's two comments from Catherine. Catherine actually asked, I'm thinking with the crocodile, Catherine, you asked, or you were mentioning that the croc was opening its eye. just keeping an eye on the world. And now you are saying it looks like an abscess on the elephant. I agree with you, Catherine. I think it does look like an abscess. Maybe there is something that went in there, or maybe the elephant did manage to get something lodged or poke itself or something somewhere out in the reserve, and an abscess is formed, and often we do see it. The other animals we see this with sometimes is also giraffe. So, looks like the elephant has left us now, but that was quite interesting to see. Maybe we might see him again later, but I heard we've got another reptile at Jabulani. So let's head over there and see what we have there. Just look at that. Not what I envisioned when I heard that there's a monitor at Jabulani. I was more usually when I think about them, I think of them moving around quite a bit, monitoring their area essentially. But this is quite the sight, and from the looks of it, it looks like a rather young one still. You can see very bright colors. The older they get, the darker and grayer they get. I wouldn't say it's a baby, but younger. And it's just doing the same as what the crocodile did earlier, basking out in the sun. It's still opening its eye every now and again to check its surroundings and be aware. But perfectly draped over that log. And what a spot indeed, hey? I see right underneath it, what's very, very interesting is it looks like there's some wasps, some potter wasps' nests. And that is quite the scene. That is very, very interesting. So, a monitor lizard, it looks like it is up a dead tree, and we know that they are very, very adept climbers. But I'm wondering, it's clearly also not bothered by the wasps. And I do know that when these guys do go up dead trees like this, they often also scout the cavities for hole nesting birds' nests, like some starlings, for instance, potentially Burchell starling or one of the others nesting in the cavity of one of these dead trees. And on his way up, probably didn't have too much luck, or he did, and now he's resting it off. But having the wasps right underneath him there, he's clearly not too bothered by them. I've never seen monitor lizards raid wasps' nets before, but then again, with these guys, I would also not put anything past them. So Ellie's saying, ooh, what a beautiful big guy. Yes, Ellie, it is a beautiful view, and it is very, very spectacular to actually have him lay still and be able to see its full length. Just look at the size of that tail. That tail completely runs all the way along the branch and even disappears. The tip of the tail being very, very thin. Now, this is a water monitor or Nile monitor, and we can see it's also got a dorsal, like a ridge running along the tail further down, and then the tail also gets kind of flattened out towards the back end. And just like the crocodile we saw earlier, it's very, very similar in that regard. Like it's got its long tail that also aids as a tool for propulsion when it's swimming. And the Nile or water monitor is this one known, of course, with water in the name. It is the lizard that really is quite associated with water, often found near water, so near the watering holes, one of the regular visitors, customers. Joan Miller, you're saying yes, Reptile Day, awesome. Very happy to hear that you like the reptiles, Joan. So do I. And especially these two that we've been seeing, the Nile monitor and the Nile crocodile. Both of them having Nile in the name, named after the river Nile, of course, and that's mostly due to the fact that they were first described along the Nile from expeditions heading on the Nile. Edward James, you're saying that this Nile monitor is quite well camouflaged. I'm thinking of that the whole time, actually, Edward. And you know, if I had to go past there or walk past there, that guy with its eye opening every now and again would have probably spotted me from a mile away, and I probably would not have been able to spot the monitor, and very likely would have spooked it, and only then would have realized that it's there. As what happens quite often with these guys, so they might lay very still until some point where you're too close, and then they scurry off, or they disappear into the water nearby, and you're not sure, was it a croc, was it a snake? Sometimes they come running through the grass past your feet, because it's the only escape route they have, and that indeed can give quite a fright at points. Just look at that. Talking about its camouflage, look how perfectly well camouflaged it is. And it's obviously got a safe spot there. It looks like, if I'm not mistaken, is this tree right in the middle of the water? Ooh. And we have another one. Another one stretched out. This one looks a little smaller. This is spectacular. What a spot. Well done there to the zoomies. Indeed. Jabulani Justice. You're saying Jabulani Safari Lodge, you love this, as my name is Jabulani. For sure, Jabulani. And look at these amazing views we're getting of these monitor lizards this afternoon. We are in luck indeed here at Jabulani. Can't believe there's two. You can see this one looks like it's got a less of a good branch to stretch out, and there's probably a bit of competition for the best spot, but I don't think it's complaining. You can see there this folds in the skin as that front foot looks like it's kind of wedged in between the body and the tree. And of course you can also see those very long sharp claws, which enables them to quite easily climb up these dead trees. It doesn't look like they have any grip whatsoever. There's also some birds' nests up, probably old weaver's nest that's disused, or maybe used by another bird that was nesting on top, and maybe that is the reason for these guys being there. Maybe they came to look for some eggs. Gorov, You're asking what my favorite reptile is and why. Well, Gaurav, my favorite is the, surprise, surprise, Nile crocodile. I just think crocodiles are so cool. There's something ancient about them. They have, even though they're such a common thing throughout Africa's river systems, they are just, very, very interesting. The way they look, the fact that they're also quite dangerous and quite well known or notorious throughout any region where they're found, and the fact that they've been around for such a long time and we still know quite little about them. But yeah, I'd say the Nile crocodile. Joan Mello, you saying nature is amazing. I agree with you. Just look how amazingly well these creatures are blending in here, and it is quite cool to see those potter nests, or those potter wasps' nests, or mud daubers below the branch that this monitor lizard is on. Roar is saying that you were walking past the river once and a Nile monitor ran out in front of you and scared you half to death. Roar, I do know the feeling. I've seen that quite a few times in my life, and every single time I thought to myself, if that was something else, that would have gone way past me. I would have not noticed it. And then usually it's met with a great sign of relief once you realize that it is a water monitor. And then Spasi Yankov, you're saying that this is one of the biggest ones you've seen. I'm very happy to hear that. This is indeed a very beautiful view of them. I see now in size comparison where we have both of them like that they are very similar in size, and they are quite beautiful specimens. It's difficult to say exactly how big they are. Like, I know the old very big ones become darker in color, but they can also grow quite old from what I understand. So PB and Jam saying hello to everybody, and that you are sitting there watching along with the History of Science in Society textbook on your lap. That is quite an interesting way to be studying science and society. But I hope there's something you can learn from this. And have a look. That tree is right in the middle of the water. There's nothing else coming up there. I can see from flood levels or marks on the tree's base that the water could still go higher, which is hard to believe. At the current height, it looks nice and full. So those lizards are also very, very clever. They know where they are there. There's not much that's going to get them. And those big branches there would make it difficult even for a bird of prey. And so, talking about the size of these monitor lizards, I hear that we have another one at Cat's Eye Pan. that might be even bigger than these two. So let's have a look and do some size comparison. Ooh, indeed. Indeed. I'd say he is a bit bigger. And here we can clearly see what I meant about the color. You can see this guy is a little bit more uniform gray. He looks well settled. Quite vigilant as they are, but this looks like a very, very large monitor. Incredible to see. We've seen 3 already, 2 on one tree, and in this magnificent specimen, just have a look. We can see it doesn't have that bright, stark, contrasted markings that we saw on the other young one. It still has its markings. Obviously, these cryptic markings help the animal blend in. But just have a look at that. You can see the sides of this one is a little bit more smoothed out. There's some markings on it, of course. Those act as camouflage, but we can clearly see it almost looks like these rounded ribs. And those are the very, very, very tough scales on this creature. It's also got a very, very tough skin and extremely well protected. Look at those incredibly long claws on that hind foot. Very muscular limbs, muscular tail. You can see this creature is, for one, well fed, but incredibly well adapted to live in these environments. And this is indeed a very big and looks like an older one. Wendy H, you're saying good afternoon and that you are a very happy PE resident after the lovely rain you've had. Wendy H, I'm very, very happy to hear that. I am so happy to hear that you've had good rain that side. I know that that part of South Africa has been struggling with severe droughts over the last number of years, so all of the rain that it's received in the last little while is extremely, extremely well taken. And very, very happy to hear that. And I am sure, Wendy, that there would be some excellent birding that side. I have seen some updates of some rare birds in and around the Eastern Cape towards PE and East London side. There we go. Not sure what the bird in the background was. Just came to investigate. I thought it might be a greater blue-eared starling. I didn't really pay attention, to be honest, but definitely one of the glossy starlings. Probably just come to check the monitor out. Maybe just came to check out the egg thief. Now these guys are not only very well adapted to climb, to get to nests and hard to reach spots, but they are also incredibly intelligent. And these creatures have very well developed problem solving skills, and sometimes when you hear birds going crazy, especially starlings, and you look up, you might even see the monitor's tail sticking out of the nesting hole in the dead tree, and then you know the monitor is busy filling itself with whatever eggs it can find. If it can fit in, of course, into the hole. Otherwise it'll just kind of pull it out to some extent with its feet. But of course, the larger they are, the less likely they are to be harassed by birds. Still, having said that, Mrs. Jason Voorhees is saying large indeed. Yes, Mrs. Jason Voorhees, and still, even if it's at this big, it still is very wary of some other predators. Monitor lizards are regarded as a good source of food for some creatures, especially eagles and reptile hunting eagles, and one eagle in particular that I've had the fortunate situation and opportunity to watch feeding off a monitor lizard was the martial eagle. And I think when the monitor's out like this on a rock or moving through an open space in the field, that's when the eagle would use its chance to strike. There we go. There's that very, very powerful tail. You can see it's got a small ridge on the dorsal side, but there's also like a thinned out part, and that's indicative of the animal's aquatic nature, different from the rock monitor, which is the other species of monitor lizard found this side of South Africa. But yeah, this monitor is just relaxing. It is basking. It looks like I can see the wind going quite a bit in the background, and from the color I think it's an overcast day at the Olifants as well. Because of that, this monitor lizard is laying down on the rock, trying to soak up whatever sun's rays it can, and then of course with its ever vigilant look, just every now and again scanning its surroundings. But this is a very, very large monitor indeed. You can see that tail dips all the way down into the water, and of course what I was going to say is that tail is a well-known defense as well, and often what you'll find is when the animal is attacked by a larger predator, it might even use that tail to whip. Just look at that. Also got excellent eyesight. You can see this guy is a little bit snoozy. When it opens up, it can see straight down its nose, past the tip. This animal's also got incredible binocular vision to help it gauge its food. But it does look a little snoozy. This is indeed a very, very big specimen. In fact, I haven't seen a very big one like this in a long time. And that's probably why it's so confident. But still not the biggest. So, Jabulani is asking how much time does it need to rest after eating? Jabulani, that depends on what it eats. In general, with reptiles, their metabolism is quite slow, and on overcast days like today, even more so. So, it depends on what this lizard was eating. If he ate something quite large, then of course he might take a much longer time to rest, and that can generally take a couple of days and even months in some cases. It won't necessarily rest throughout that time, but that's how long it might sustain him the meal. But after it's eaten a lot, then of course there'll be a period of inactivity and potential basking like what we're seeing now. Joan Mello, you are saying that there is nothing more beautiful than a black mamba or a green vine snake from a distance. Of course. Alright. So I hear you, Joan. They are very beautiful as long as they're at a distance. Well, interestingly enough, talking about snakes, these guys can also, these monitor lizards can deliver quite a rough bite if they're handled, and they're incredibly powerful. It's essentially like one muscular body, that, and they have also quite a lot of thin serrated teeth within their jaw, and that also helps them to grip onto whatever they're eating when they're eating. But definitely something that is unbelievably beautiful from a distance, as long as you handle it with respect. And now it's put its head down. It seems to have relaxed. Ooh, some movement. Let's see. You can see those big claws there. So you can see the tongue's coming in and out. Just like a snake, snake-like tongue. Just like a snake, same thing. The tongue goes out, picks up chemical traces in the air, and then brings it back into the mouth, where it will deposit those chemical traces at the palate, the top of the mouth, and then from there it'll go and get analyzed by the Jacobson's organ, as it's known. And it's essentially a organ that extracts olfactory information from whatever scent it picked up. Now this lizard looks almost like it wants to go somewhere, but it's also torn between enjoying the sunlight, or whatever sunlight there is on that rock. You can see its back legs wants to stay, but maybe its front part wants to move. Now I am wondering what is making this monitor a little bit on edge. It is staring back. Maybe it's just out of caution. You can see, even though there's no external ear appendages, you can see this animal also picks up on the vibrations of things moving, and it is very, very adept at hearing. And often with these built structures near the water, the vibrations of larger animals approaching can be felt. But of course today, with this wind and everything moving, it might be a little bit different. You can see it does look like it's been quite busy around this watering hole. There has been quite a few elephants that's come in, and you can see that the grass and everything is moved around there. You can see clear signs of critters coming in to come and have a drink. And what do we have there at the back? Oh, maybe it was just in the rock. I'm talking about rock. That's another monitor that we do find, a rock monitor. So this one known as the water or Nile monitor, and then we have the rock monitor or legevan, coming from the Afrikaans word legevan, which funnily enough we don't actually distinguish. Legevan is a general term for either one of the species. Not sure about that word's origin, very odd name. But Jabulani is asking, how many years does it live mostly? Jabulani, I do not know. Like, I am thinking that it must be quite a number of years. These reptiles they are quite long lived, and of course, like most reptiles, they have a thing called a condition known as indeterminate growth. Now what that means is essentially that they reach a certain length, more or less, but they never stop growing, and they keep growing. They become bigger and bigger the older they get. So the longer this water monitor lives, the bigger it will become. And that's why old reptiles are usually very, very big. And that's why I'd say this one is probably quite old. How old exactly? I do not know. I've even seen them darker than this, but this is a spectacular specimen, this. And then Freddy's asking what they use their tail for. Well, Freddy, to propel them to swim in a big way, to navigate their aqueous environments that they are sometimes found in. Ooh, there we go. Let's see. Let's see where it's going. Maybe it does come into the water. That would be amazing to see. But also Freddy, they also use their tails for protection and for defense against larger predators. It is a very, very useful weapon. Very powerful, very muscular, very hard, covered with the skin, so they can deliver a very painful whiplash. And I've heard many stories of how menacing those can be to dogs. Let's see what this legevan's doing. I'm not sure. It doesn't look like it's drinking water. It's whatever it's doing, it's covering it with its tail. But have a look at the claws on that foot of it. Wondering what it was doing, maybe peeling some loose patches of skin. These guys also do. Ooh, have a look. Maybe it's drinking some water. Very slow movements here. Its body is contorted quite oddly between the rocks here, but it doesn't seem too bothered. This is this is amazing. Now we can get a very good look of this animal. What a weird way. There we go. It's very crocodile-like nature as it slips into the water. And this is exactly what that tail's used for. And as it slips into the water and back out, it's also just to cool down a little bit, regulate. Maybe it's just checking, but there we go. You can see, and as it moves, the head moves. And it's snake-like movement, tongue in and out, constantly, essentially monitoring its environment. Just have a look at that. What a beautiful view, and very, very fortunate to be treated to this. Now, the watering holes, of course, attract a lot of different birds. These birds are, of course, also often making nests near the water, and this monitor is a very, very adept egg thief, and I have witnessed them getting hold of eggs of birds along waters or nests. And what I've also seen is that the crocodile sometimes will allow the thick-knees or other birds like the blacksmith lapwing to nest nearby if she's got a nest somewhere on the bank of a watering hole or river. And the very reason is it's an added protection, because while the croc might be a little bit further away, these monitors might slip in and try and dig out and steal the eggs. In which case, if they try that with the birds nearby, and birds running shifts, often where both the parents take a turn to sit on the nest, that means there's usually a vigilant party at the nest, and obviously that means that they will alert the crocodile to the presence of the monitor lizard. So that way they work together, weirdly enough. PB and Jam, you're saying that observing nature is your favorite way to learn, and Wild Earth is a great teacher. I'm very happy to hear that, PB and Jam. So we've jumped to Tembi. That was very, very kind of that monitor to give us such a show, and spread out and had a good view. But of course, Tembi, what an amazing place. And what it's known for, Tembi Elephant Park, elephants galore around Tembi's watering holes. There's some beautiful elephants here. That big bull elephant moving off to the left there had some spectacular tusks. It's amazing how 1 minute these spaces can be filled with life and these large gentle giants, and then the next minute they disappear. And there's the usual woolly-necked storks and the Egyptian geese. It looks like it's been busy around this area. There's a playful elephant in the water. One of the good things about Tembi is Often get to see some of the elephants in the water here. And as we can see, lots of water. And from what I hear, this part of South Africa should be receiving more water soon. It's been some great rains in this part. Unfortunately, the rains have caused damage. Oh, look at that elephant. He is really getting the mud in the good spots there. Almost tusking the ground, loosening up some mud. And there's a jacana coming in to check out the action. And sometimes that's what the elephants do. If they have loose soil or mud, they might go down, especially the younger ones, in a playful mood to cover those hard to reach areas well behind the ears. Oh, beautiful. What a nice size herd getting in. You can see, look at them shaking up in the water. There's another elephant tusking that same spot, loosening up some mud and soil. You can see the woolly neck stalks are moving in. They know that these large giants is literally a walking ecosystem on their own, and they make sure that there's lots of feeding opportunities that turn up, whether it be frogs or animals, small little critters that they disturb while in the water or the water's edge, or whether it be the insects they kick up. Oh, look at that. Looks like even the older elephants are getting in on the action. Must be very hot, very humid there currently before the approaching rain. So Arnold is asking if elephants have predators in this area. Arnold, it's a good question, because technically I guess no, but also yes. No, in the sense that it's the biggest animal, well, an adult elephant in this region, and very rarely will anything attempt to hunt an elephant, especially a large elephant. Well, potentially younger elephants could be hunted by lions, but for that, lions generally specialize, and they get kind of taught that by pride members that's been doing it for a while. It's not an easy feat. And I don't think Tembe's lion numbers are at such a level where the prides will be large enough. You can see that the elephant's got a collar around her neck, so she is an elephant that gets studied for valuable data regarding movements and ecology. All of it adding to a better understanding and therefore better management of protected areas that have elephants move through them, especially that part of Africa. It's crucial to have this data. And from the looks of it, it looks like one of those newer smart collars. Very happy to see that. And then of course right underneath the neck and the other end of the collar there's a weight that makes sure that that side of the collar stays low down, and then the top part that emits the signal is facing towards the sky. But have a look at that. That whole pond is moving. All the water plants, all the birds. Here we go. You have to chase the Egyptian geese at least once, especially when there's a large herd around, like There's nothing more tough like a young elephant bull chasing geese. And just have a look at that. Who says large female elephants don't like to play? She might even pay attention to the geese. And now they're all coming around. Look at them moving around. They utilizing that natural little dip there as a chair to rub the back ends, cover it with some dirt and loose soil. Now that's a nice thing about the soil here, having these older soils that stick quite well to the body. Okay, now they're moving. It looks like they're moving with intent. That was very brief. Who knows, maybe there might be other elephants that's moved in. But that was quite a beautiful check-in. Good to see all the elephants, and I think let's leave Tembe and head back over to Oldonyo and see what's happening there. And beautiful, we have a beautiful lone elephant bull at the water's edge and a beautiful sunny Oldonyo. We often find the elephant bulls at that exact spot. You can see how wet the rocks are there. And that's because he's got his trunk in the water there at the water inlet. Clever elephant. He's probably sucking the water directly out there. Or maybe he's just feeling exactly where it is. Just have a look. Oof, that's amazing. Every now and again I can't help but admire the camera's ability to get us these unprecedented views of these animals. And have a look at that. Just look how carefully this elephant is feeling it out there with its trunk. What an interesting organ and tool. You can see, look how flexible it is. Now just imagine all those muscles in that trunk being able to move and make small movements like that. And you see those two tips, almost like little fingers right at the tip of the trunk. What an incredible animal. The largest land mammal evolved such an unique and interesting organ. Go about its daily business and have a look. All of that. From throwing water to targeted points all over its body, spraying it in various ways, and also being able to suck water up and squirt it back into the mouth. Hmm. Now I have to say, here at Old Donyo, these elephants here feel like they take things a little bit slower. And another thing about the cameras here and at Old Donyo is the way that this perspective messes with one's eyes. Like that tree in the back, not looking so big, but just behind the watering hole here, it takes quite a dip down to like towards that big tree, and we saw that giraffe moving under it, and that's a massive tree. Oh, there we go, another elephant. I thought there might be another elephant. This also looks like quite a big elephant bull. And the giraffes are all still standing under the tree. Now I'm assuming they are there to wait for some water or a chance to drink. So let's see, I think these two guys might take their time. It was a gentle way of telling the other one to move over. Sanjeev Roy is saying that for the last 20 days, any live telecasts from wilds of Africa have one thing in common, and that's rain, leading to green surroundings, and you wonder how long this would last. Well, Sanjeev, it depends on the part of Africa that you're in. For instance, where we are down here in South Africa, we are pretty much starting to move over to the drier part, where our rain season, we might still get quite a bit of rain, and I think there is quite a bit expected for some parts of South Africa, but we are gradually gonna start having a drier season approach in not too long. Where in other parts, in East Africa for instance, they almost have two rain seasons, a shorter one and a longer, more intense one. Just have a look at this. A little bit of interesting interaction. That elephant resting its trunk while checking out the older bull. The bull on the right looks a little bit older. And now that the big one's moved off, he's moving back in. It's amazing, that sign of respect, that complete understanding. They just know. If he didn't move away there, maybe the other elephant might have encouraged it a little bit more. So we got a question from Lauren saying, why do we never see elite cows here? Lauren, that's a very, very good question. I do not know. I haven't seen elephant cows around here. It might be for various reasons, or it might be a combination of various reasons, rather, that might have this effect. The fact that there is so many elephant bulls around here might also discourage cows from hanging around in the area for too long. Generally speaking, elephant cows and the herds also tend to move quite a bit when they have little ones, and they often do try and stay away from some of the larger bulls, especially the bulls, the older bulls and musts, if they've got small babies with them. So, and maybe it might just be that we don't see it. What a beautiful animal. You can see, look at all the flying insects around. And now relaxing the trunk, you can see how long it can stretch down. Now, I can't see. Oh, it was obviously, it was slurping up or sucking up some water within the trunk, but I couldn't see it. Oof, look at that. Draping the trunk around the tusk must be quite a comfortable thing. Sometimes when it is very, very hot, I've noticed elephants do it. There's a giraffe laying down, it seems like, to the left of that tree. Very interesting to see. Not a too common sight, but you do tend to see every now and again. And giraffe are very relaxed. Sometimes in the heat of the day you might find them laying down like that in the shade and ruminating. Looks like they are all standing and ruminating except for the two laying down. An effective way to spend the time or yeah, spend time passing in the shade. We know these guys don't sleep for very long hours, at least not from what's been recorded in certain studies. Oh, that looks like a baby giraffe actually. That is incredible. Not both of the short ones are baby. The one to the right is definitely looks like a male laying down, but the middle one looks like a young baby giraffe. Just carefully inspecting this giraffe. Let's see, it looks like it might also be laying down, or going to be, maybe not. But it's incredible for a size comparison. The size of that male who's laying down, or looks like it's laying down, and its neck is taller than that baby giraffe. It looks like a rather young baby. Now, a very, very tall male giraffe can have a neck of more than 2 meters, close to 2.5 meters. It's very interesting also to watch how well their camouflage makes them blend into the shade in here, while standing waiting for the elephants to move off. That little one is also getting groomed by all the oxpeckers. And the bond between young giraffe and its mother is extremely important. A very strong bond it forms, and a bond that actually is at the core of their social groupings. And the mother and offspring bond in a big way. It determines how the groups are formed and how they stay. And you often find that giraffes and close-knit groups are often related, or at least the females. These bonds are quite strong, and you do sometimes find even older males that might be related back in a group. But just have a look. What beautiful animals. And here comes the funny guinea fowl. Let's have a look. The helmeted guinea fowl, very eager to get a drink. Does that mean that the elephants have moved off? Look at on their way there. Obviously they're checking out the ground, making sure that they're not missing anything. Being birds, they've got very, very keen eyesight, and the water and all the elephant dung around will certainly provide lots of good little meals running around. So, from manned, I'm wondering if that is manned or mandy, probably. Asking, how do toenails help the elephants? That's a good question, manned. Toenails they actually help the animal actually respirates from there or sweats from there, and then there's also a couple of sweat glands just above. But toenails also provide the elephant with areas that's rather sensitive, close to the ground. It does provide them with some protection, especially on the rim of the foot. When they move, but sometimes you can see with elephants they often damage their toenails, and sometimes to the point where it can even cause a bit of uncomfortability. But very much like our own, it gives a little bit of protection, a hardened surface. Elephant's still there, so these giraffe are just waiting. You can see lots of birds taking this chance for the rest of the edge of the watering hole open. Looks mostly like doves. Looks like the guinea fowl has had their fill, for at least 3 of them, and quickly moving off. Let's see, it looks like a young male giraffe, and I'm pretty sure this elephant wouldn't mind if he comes down, but in classical giraffe style, still waiting. Well, while this elephant's enjoying its drink here, I think we're going to head back to Tembe to see. I hear that elephants are still around the water there. And just look at that. Just look at that. Lots of elephants. These guys look like elephant bulls. It looks like the herd's moved off. So it's just a little bit of a interaction. Looks like a little bit of a catch up around here. Look at these 3 meeting up, checking each other out. Might have been with all the rain in the area that they've been moving away from each other. Although that elephant is posturing in a way, he's making himself looking a little bit taller, so not sure exactly what the situation is here. You can see this one that's come in is also suspecting some funny behavior. So Dave Zim is asking, have there been any records of interbreeding between the different giraffe species? Dave, I'm shooting from the top of my head here. I do recall between the different subspecies, there's been, and I know they've also did a lot of genetic testing throughout different regions to kind of determine that. And I think in captivity it has happened, but generally out in the wild it doesn't. Or not in the current state of affairs, but I'm not 100% sure here, and that's something that I'll have to have a look in to make sure. But yeah, in short, I don't know. Do not know. So currently there's 4 recognized species. On the other hand, elephants, funnily enough, for a long time the African forest elephant was thought to be a subspecies of the savanna elephant, until rather recently they've put them into 2 different species. But I've recently read that apparently in some areas, due to habitat destruction and lack of habitat, there's been cases of where the 2 interbreed. And that's quite an interesting, very worrying situation, to be honest. We'll have a look. That elephant was just checking him out. I see there's a small group of impala around that termite mound. And see that termite mound's also been used quite a bit. Let's see, maybe we'll see why. Elephant on top. Here we go. That's why the termite mound looks used. And have a look there. She's sticking a tusk in, so she's opening it up, breaking some loose. Now, in this case, sometimes we find that the elephant actually eat the pieces of mud. I don't think that's the aim here. I think she's trying to get some loose sand to throw over herself. A very hard mud-like structure. I wonder what those termites are thinking currently. Getting terrorized by an elephant. But sometimes I've seen other animals do it too, but I've seen elephants, they sometimes, especially after rains, when the termite mounds are moist, they'll often eat a little bit of the soil from the mounds for some minerals. But this is rather common behavior after the rains. And this is a brilliant show she's giving us. You can see it's that hard to reach areas under the belly. That was quite the show. Let's see, there we go. That was a chunk of soil from the mound. Ooh, look at that. That is incredible. Now, if I'm not mistaken, what we saw there, I know the other elephant walked in front, but she was literally tossing that chunk of termite mound around in the in the trunk, in the like the bend of the trunk there, in a circular motion, almost to loosen it up even more. Maybe that was to throw over her, even though she didn't, but very, very, very interesting behavior there. That's not something I've seen too commonly, to be honest. But that was very, very excellent. I think from South Africa we'll head over to the Hide in Wangi National Park in Zimbabwe. Just look at this, what a view. Beautiful blue skies with some clouds, nice open patch and lots of little piglets. Look at all those large termite mounds. What an incredible landscape here at the Hide. One vigilant pig having a lookout. Just have a look, these guys moving on their wrists through this landscape, getting nice and close, dislodging all those little grass roots. Come for a nice wallow. But what a beautiful place here at the Hide. You can see some bare patches here, a little bit of greenery, but it's already starting to, you can see it's already, the grass is starting to color. Now of course in a situation like this it's open grassland, but it still provides a lot of potential here for predators to stalk up to them. Quite the abundance of warthog around here. Sure. "11 different little warthogs. That is quite a bunch. I wonder how many they were when they started out. These guys look like they're already grown a little bit. And they haven't left their den site recently. But certainly a successful group. So Sarah's asking, why do they kneel when they feed? So Sarah, the warthog has a very hard cartilage disc within its nose, and that, along with its very, very strong neck muscles that's attached to its skull, these warthogs are incredibly strong that way, and when they go down on their risks like that, it means that they can access the harder to get food, which would be the grass shoots and roots, and that way it just gives them a little bit more anchor, a little bit more grip, and they can essentially dislodge the grass, and that way they can outcompete the other grazers. So that's what we're seeing. It enables them to get lower down, otherwise they would have had to extend their neck, even though they stand feeding up. That way they can really get their muscle behind the head to loosen the topsoil and get the food they need. Very, very busy little creatures. And they also eat mostly during the day. They're mostly active during the day. Very rarely or seldomly do you see them out during the night. Sometimes the boars, the males, but it depends on the area, and if there's predators in the area, usually at night time they're in their burrows and safe, and during the daytime they feed. So that's also another thing that gives them enables the so this method of feeding down on their wrists enables them to actually get the nutritious part of the food and still get a lot of nutrition in the shorter time spent feeding, where a lot of the other antelope and other grazers are able to still feed during the night, or even lay down and chew the cud then. Warthogs, not being ruminants, don't have to chew the cud, but it's to maximize their time during the day when they're feeding. So, what an incredible spot to end this beautiful afternoon off here in Wangi. But I think we've had some good reptiles on this afternoon. But from myself and everybody here at Wild Earth, I hope you join us again tomorrow afternoon, and I will bid you a good afternoon.